The first step in making an image map is adding shading to the image so that the end user is able to figure out where the hotspots are. So open Adobe Photoshop. You should find it in the programs within the Creative Suite CS4 folder. Go ahead and launch that, and then open the file that contains the image you're going to be working on. So we go to File, Open, and we browse for the file and open it. So this is the image that I'm going to use to create my image map. And what I want to do is shade the areas that will be the hot spots so the end user knows where to mouse and click in order to get additional information or commentary on particular items in this image. So what we need to do first is select the area that Photoshop will add shading to. So let's suppose one of the things that is of interest here and that I want to comment on is this pair of soldiers here down at the bottom. So what I need to do is select that region. And there are various ways to do this. The easiest way to do it, if the region you want to select is rectangular, is to choose the rectangular marquee tool. So go ahead on this left panel, click on that, and now mouse back over here, click and drag to the diagonally opposite corner, defining a region. Now we've specified this region, this small area within the larger image, and what I want to do is shade this area. The way we do this is using what's called the paint bucket tool. So go ahead and now click on this. What the paint bucket tool does is overlays a solid color of varying opacity on top of the selected region. Let's suppose the color we want is not this horrible lime green, but rather something that's a bit more subtle. So what we do is we click on that top square towards the bottom, and that brings up the color picker. And let's suppose the color we want is something towards kind of the mid-range yellow, maybe a mustard yellow. That might be a nice color to use. So click on the area here on the rainbow to the closest approximate color, and then fine-tune the color you're selecting by clicking somewhere in this large square that corresponds to variations on that color. This looks like a good option to use for this black and white image in overlaying a color. So let's click OK. And now what we want to do is apply this color to the region. So notice the region is still selected. We mouse over inside the region with the cursor, which now looks like a paint bucket tipped on its side, and we click. Oh, but this isn't quite what we wanted. Instead, what we wanted is a slight transparent layer, not this total blotting out. So let's back off of what we did. We go up here to Edit and do Step Backward to remove the last function that we just performed. Luckily for us, the paint bucket tool allows you to specify the opacity that you're using when you color over a region. So let's back off from this 100% to say maybe 30%. See how that looks. Now we mouse back over to this region that we want to select. We click again. And now this looks pretty good. We can still see the underlying image. We can see that it's two soldiers sitting here by the side of the railroad tracks that are being ripped up. Let's suppose there's another region that we want to highlight and provide commentary for. Perhaps this tree here in the background. Now this tree really isn't a rectangular area. Well, for that matter, neither were the soldiers. But what I want to do is use this tree to illustrate how to select a region that's not rectangular. So rather than selecting the rectangular marquee tool, we select the one just under it, the polygonal lasso tool. And if that's not the one that's displayed when you click on this, click on the little triangle to the right of the tool, and you'll expose the tool set under this particular icon. So what we want to select is the polygonal lasso tool. What this allows us to do is specify a region by clicking on the various points of a polygon that will define that region. So we mouse back over again. Just to remind you, what I want to do is select this roughly oval region. So what I do is click and then move the mouse to where I want the next point of the polygon to be. I keep moving around. Again, what I'm doing is clicking when the mouse is over the region of the image that I want to be the end point of a line that creates a polygon. I go back to the initial point that I clicked on, click on it again, and now that defines this polygonal region. Again, we go over here, we select the paint bucket tool. You could choose a different color if you like, but there's no particular reason to do that. So let's stick with this mustard yellow. We mouse back over so that the paint bucket is on top of the selected region. We click, and now this has this mustard yellow slightly opaque shading on top of it. One final thing we want to do is make sure that the image is appropriately sized for what we want to ultimately do with it. To see what size the image is in pixels, we go up here to the top menu bar, select image and get a drop down, and then move down to image size. And that'll bring up the image size window. For our purposes, we want to have these three things checked. We want to keep this as bicubic. Basically, don't touch anything here. Do, though, make sure that resample image and constrain proportions are checked. And then change the width so that it's 600. Notice that the height changes in order to constrain the proportion of the image. Had this not been checked, that wouldn't have happened, and then we would have had an image that was all funky looking. So let's go ahead and click this, click OK. The image is going to get a little bit smaller, but that's okay because the actual size of the image, if we go to view actual pixels, it's actually large enough for our purposes. We can tell what the image is, but it's not so big that it's going to take up the entire page in the final image map that we're creating. So this is good. Let's save the file in JPEG format, given the shadings that we've done and the resizing that we did. So we go up here to File, Save As, and then let's call it, say, Final Image. It's better if you don't have any spaces in the file name. So File-Image. And if something other than JPEG is selected here, choose the format to be JPEG, which is about halfway down on the selector drop down. So we click Save. A window will pop up, say, giving us various JPEG options. Go ahead and choose 10 for the quality of the image. It would take too long to explain why. Just 10 is a good number. And then click OK. And now we can close Photoshop because we have the image that we eventually want to apply the image map to created.